Hey folks, it's Bobby. We're going to talk about the FBI's failures to protect American citizens tonight while they're busy running around framing people for terrorist attacks. Terrorist attacks, get it? And the President of the United States for treason. So make sure you share this show because I'm going to ask you guys to call in tonight at area code 218-548-7742, 2018, and we're going to get your opinions.
Viewers on YouTube, how you doing? What show are we on?
The Truth is Viral.
The Truth is Viral, people. So take 2 penicillins and call me in the morning.
places you don't talk about at parties. You want me on that wall. You need me on that wall.
Keep that frequency clear.
And now it's conspiracy. See, they've made that something that should not be even entertained for a minute. That powerful people might get together and have a plan. Doesn't happen. You're a kook. You're a conspiracy bum.
You're watching The Truth is Viral, the only news program on the internet trusted to deliver the truth since 2008. And now, here's your host, Mr. Bobby Powell.
Welcome back to The Truth is Viral, folks. My name is Bob Powell, and tonight we're going to talk about the FBI's continued failures to protect American citizens from these terror attacks, school attacks. It's just a mess. Why do they do this? Are they too busy setting up developmentally disabled Islamic terrorists? Or planning to overthrow our president in a failed soft coup, this Russia investigation that just came to a crashing halt tonight with the announcement by Deputy Attorney General Rosenstein. They arrested 13 Russians and indicted them for crimes against the United States of America, and he made great pains to echo the fact that no Americans were involved. There was no collusion. That the whole thing has fallen apart, and I actually feel a little bit sorry for. No, I don't. I don't feel sorry for him at all. The liberals have absolutely gone out of their minds over the last year and some months trying to prove that Donald Trump betrayed this country to Russia, when the fact is that it was Hillary Clinton and the Democratic National Committee and those guys, her whole little cabal, the FBI agents and the members of the Department of Justice that helped her pull it off. They're the ones that were colluding with Russia. They paid this Fusion GPS and Christopher Steele, and the money ended up in the hands of the Russians. And they paid them, and it was just stupid. So no, I don't feel sorry for them at all. They deserve everything that they get. But I'd like to mention something to you folks tonight. Something very special is going to happen tomorrow. Okay? For the last 3 years, I've been involved in the law enforcement torch run Polar Plunge and try to raise money for Special Olympics in the state of Michigan. And just take a couple of seconds and watch what it was like last year. This is great.
Oh, easy, George.
That water is cold, I'm telling you.
That might leave a mark.
I'm going to take everybody in with me today.
Yeah, I was Batman.
Bobby Powell as Batman. He's going to videotape it as he goes in, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it's kind of my job,
Underwater
folks.
camera, here we go.
Now listen.
So paint the Bundys and we'll avoid Finnegan.
Yeah.
We're getting him wet. Mary Miller says surprise on here. I'm not sure what the surprise is, but I guess we're going to find out.
Don't forget me.
This is a famous show, you know that, right? Oh, Supergirl! I got a little scared for a second there. Next we have George. He wants to say something.
There's my good buddy George coming up. He's a real character, George.
And this is really means a lot to me this year because, like I said, we lost Peter Battaglia, and he was one good advocate for me. Always gave me a good run for my money. I just want to do a moment of silence and do this trumpet memory of John. Pete, sorry guys, I'm just nervous and never know that. Let's do this for Pete and just have his memory live on with all of us here at the Polar Plunge of how much what he did for us. Let's go, Pete. See you, buddy.
This is hilarious. You guys got to. Make sure you watch this really good. You'll rewind this over and over again.
We're doing this every year.
Yeah, we really have fun every year. We raise money for Special Olympics and the law enforcement torch run here in Michigan. And I would like to ask for you guys to sponsor me. Any donations that I get tonight will go straight to Special Olympics for Michigan. All you got to do is hit the PayPal me link down in the description. It's PayPal me/thetruithisviral. And you can help me raise some money for developmentally disabled kids here in Michigan. They really deserve it. But we're going to talk now about this shooting down in Florida and other incidences in which the FBI was warned ahead of time that these incidents were going to occur. And they did nothing. I've got personal experience with this, and I'm going to show that to you in a minute. But first, let's take a look at Mr. Rob Lasky. He's the FBI special agent in charge in Miami. What he's in charge of, I'm not exactly sure.
In 2017, the FBI received information about a comment made on a YouTube channel. The comment simply said, "I'm going to be a professional school shooter." No other information was included with that comment, which would indicate a time, location, or the true identity of the person who made the comment. Earlier today, the FBI released a statement regarding information provided to our public access line on January 5th of this year. The caller provided information about Nicholas Cruz and the potential of him becoming a school shooter. Under normal protocol, this information should have been provided to the Miami field office. Their appropriate investigative steps would have been taken. The FBI has determined that protocol was not followed. The information was not provided to the Miami field office, and no further investigation was conducted at that time. The FBI is still investigating the facts of this situation. We will conduct an in-depth review of our internal procedures for responding to information that is provided by the public. The FBI remains dedicated to keeping the American people safe.
Yeah, right. You know, I don't doubt that most FBI agents do want to keep people safe. I do. But the agency is in such disarray from the top to the bottom. Okay, we've got FBI snipers murdering patriots in Oregon. FBI snipers murdering women that are holding their babies. And shooting Branch Davidians as they're trying to flee their burning compounds. And they're facing no sanctions. None, zero, zip, zilch. They get away with it, and probably a nice little bonus, and then they're sent off into the witness protection program somewhere. It's despicable. These guys knew that this shooting could occur. That FBI agent said, "We didn't know how to find him." He put his name on it. He signed the note and put his name on his death threat. Don't tell me that you can't get a hold of Google or YouTube and track down his IP and find out where he is. You're liars. Children are dead because you were too busy running around doing things that you ought not be doing. I don't know if I can blame you or not. The entire FBI culture was derived from a cross-dressing liar, a power-mad freak that maintained files on everybody, named their FBI headquarters after him, J. Edgar Hoover, probably one of the dirtiest cops that ever lived. But that's okay. We see you. And I literally see you. Sometimes when I do go on YouTube Live to do a private sound check or something like that, nobody else has the link to that video. But I see how many people are watching me. I just look at my little computer over here and it tells me how many people are watching. I've got 7 people watching right now. I guess I'm kind of a boring host. But yeah, I see this. I'm doing these sound checks and I see 1 person watching. That poor guy. I wonder how badly he messed up, what he must have done to get put on watch Bobby duty. It's got to be the most boring job in the FBI. Besides Mop Boy. But yeah, they do this all the time. They just simply do not pay attention to threats that are brought to their attention. And I've got a whole list. And we're going to go through it in just a minute. So, yes, I would like for you folks to give me a call tonight because I want you to weigh in on this very important subject. The number is 218-548-7742. And I want you to call in and tell me what you think. This is a problem. It really is. And I've got personal experience with this. I'm going to show you a clip of a guy that uploaded a video. That video isn't part of this because it contains my personal information, names of my family members and whatnot. But he uploaded a video to YouTube. And he offered a monetary reward for my death, the death of my wife, and the death of my children. That's a federal felony. He not only offered a reward for my deaths, but he explicitly threatened federal agents. So I want you to check this out. This guy's a real scumbag. I know he didn't have the money to pay anybody that actually tried to collect. But who knows? He might have been influencing somebody just as crazy as he is. Look at this.
Okay, people, we're going to talk here about why that Bobby Powell guy is a douchebag.
Big mouth, talking shit, motherfucking, bald-headed, redneck, chicken fucker, inbred piece of shit.
And possibly a government agent.
Yeah, he thought I was a government agent.
He's outspoken of how he hates marijuana, even for medical use. This proves that he wants cancer patients to suffer and die. He's obviously an uneducated, backwoods, hillbilly skinhead and a possible white supremacist. And this is the most important one. He most likely has a small dick. That tiny little dick of yours right off, buddy. Blah, fuck that. Now, I'm going to stand up for America, and I'm going to stand up for my rights. And if that means having to take a gun and commit a little civil disobedience to do it, then so be it. If it means I have to put a bullet in a government agent or two, so be it.
So, yeah, if he's got to put a bullet in a government agent or two, so be it. I told the FBI about this guy 3 years ago. And they've done 2 things. Jack and shit. Okay, just tonight, as I was going through some of the comments, where did it go? Here it is. Come on, where are you? There we go. Okay, here we go. My slideshow. Excuse me. Just tonight, as I was going through some of the comments on Discus, I came across this one. Now, I was talking about BAM, beyond any, or by all means necessary. That's the group that's headed by Yvette Falarca, that Antifa teacher out in Berkeley, the one that was arrested for assaulting a Milo Yiannopoulos supporter. Okay, and I was telling them I've got personal experience with BAM as a journalist. They were calling Second Amendment supporters Nazis long before Trump even thought of running for president. They threatened to kill me just because I asked if the black Second Amendment supporter who was with me was also a racist Nazi. And I said that the BAM was violent before the alt-right existed. And then this guy down here at the bottom, Lone Wanderer, says, here we have a white supremacist neo-Nazi using Joseph Goebbels' second law of propaganda. Accuse your enemy of that which you yourself are guilty. All members of the alt-right are terrorists and need to be killed. Of course, I'm not a member of the alt-right. If I had to qualify my politics, they'd be centrist libertarian. But more accurately, I guess you could say that I'm a monarchist, serving a coming king. Okay, but he says that they need to be killed, and it gets worse, folks. I said, what are you going to fight them with? Dildos and bongs? He says, no, I'm going to fight them with my assault rifle and Colt 45 ACP, as well as the numerous knives that I own. Oh, he sounds really dangerous. Personally, I like blades. They're up close and personal, and I get to watch the light of your miserable fascist life fade out of your eyes as I kill you. Don't you just love that? That is hilarious. This guy, I told him, dude, you seriously need to cut down on Call of Duty, tough guy. Remember, dumbass, in real life, you don't respawn. But there's more. And he wasn't just talking to me. I went through his profile just to see what this guy was about. And he's threatening to kill everybody that he thinks is a Nazi, which, of course, these days is anybody that likes or voted for Donald Trump. He says, in my experience, those who defend Nazis, like you're doing, generally are members of the fascist, Christian, dominionist, Republican, Nazi, right-wing, extremist, white supremacist, GOP, jihadist, American Zionist, Taliban, domestic terrorist party. That's an acronym, isn't it? Those who defend Nazis are Nazis, and the only good Nazi is a dead Nazi. And it continues, attacking another guy. Okay, here we go. He's attacking a guy called Bruce Majors for DC. He looks at you, dead man walking. That reconcile with the members of the right wing. Fuck that shit. We kill them, all of them. Now, in this discussion, he says, this piece of subhuman filth who assaulted Mrs. Amiable is a typical example of the filthy, fascist, Christian, dominionist, Republican, Nazi, right-wing extremist, white supremacist, GOP, jihadist, Zionist, Taliban, domestic terrorist party. Their kind is a cancer in the body politic of America, and our nation will never heal until they have been excised in their entirety down to the last man, woman, and child. They all, period, need, period, to, period, die. Oh my, that's dramatic. Here he says, all fascist Christian dominionist, I'm not going through a lot of crap again, should be exterminated. Every period, single period, one period of them, period. They are a cancer in the body politic of America, and the only cure for cancer is complete excision, including their families. What do you think I ought to do with this guy? Well, see something, say something, right? I have reported him to Discus, and as soon as I get done with this live stream, I'm going to call the FBI and send them all the screenshots I got. I spared you guys a majority of them, but this guy's just obviously mentally ill. He's probably a teenager, just like this Nicholas Cruz guy down in Florida. But teenagers are the dangerous ones. They are the ones that have been indoctrinated by the flower children of the 60s. They're teachers. They're in the high schools. They're in the colleges. You've seen the videos of the teachers that take a toy gun and shoot a picture of Donald Trump right there in the classroom, and you know, it's okay for them. It's not okay for them. It's not okay for anybody to threaten to kill anybody. Matter of fact, if you do it on the internet, it's an interstate felony. So that makes it the purview of the FBI. But they don't like to follow up on things that don't jibe with their agenda. So we're gonna go through a list that was compiled by the Daily Caller of the times that the FBI keeps on missing mass shooters. I'm going to pull this up for you here real quick. Got to make sure that's centered on the screen. Got to make things look pretty for you guys. Okay, here we go. The FBI keeps on missing mass shooters before it's too late. This is written by Peter Hansen, associate editor of the Daily Caller. Revelations that the FBI had been warned about Florida high school shooter Nicholas Cruz fit an all too familiar pattern in which apparent law enforcement errors, are they really errors, have preceded mass murders. A person close to Cruz warned the FBI last month that he had a desire to kill people and could carry out a school shooting. And the agency failed to act on that tip. The FBI was also warned after he posted a YouTube video saying that he was going to become a professional school shooter. The agency said that they could not identify the user who made the threat, despite the fact that Cruz posted under his own name. 5 months after the tip about the YouTube comment, and 1 month after the FBI was alerted that Cruz had a desire to kill people and could become a school shooter, the 19-year-old pulled the fire alarm at the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School and began shooting his former classmates with his AR-15. Other mass shooters and terrorists were similarly on the FBI's radar, or should have been, before they carried out their deadly attacks. Dylan Roof, who in 2015 shot 9 people at a black church in Charleston, was allowed to purchase his weapon in part because of errors by FBI agents during the background check process. And, you know, that can happen. Okay, I wouldn't consider that true negligence. You know, computers, garbage in, garbage out. Maybe somebody screwed up a form somewhere. But post-nightclub shooter Omar Mateen, who pledged allegiance to ISIS before killing 49 people at the Orlando nightclub, similarly seemed to have fallen through the cracks. The FBI had investigated Mateen twice before the slaughter, but ruled him not to be a threat both times. The FBI knew that Fort Hood shooter Army Major Nidal Hassan had been in contact with al-Qaeda terrorist Anwar al-Awlaki, but declined to investigate him. A congressional probe found that the FBI had failed to alert the Army about Hassan and that the shooting could and would have been prevented. Hassan killed 13 people and wounded dozens of others in the 2009 shooting. The FBI missed similar opportunities to stop Tamerlan Tsarnaev, one of the brothers behind the 2013 Boston bombing. Russia warned the United States that Tsarnaev had associations with Islamic terrorists, leading to an FBI-led task force to question the future terrorist. The agent who interviewed Tsarnaev closed the probe, having found no link or nexus to terrorism. That could be because the FBI was ordered by the Obama administration to strip all language about Islamic terrorism, and specifically the word jihad from all of their training materials. The task force was alerted a year later that Tsarnaev was leaving the country for Dagestan, but declined to interview him or stop him from leaving the country. FBI agents later said that the failure to interview Tsarnaev was a huge error. Another school shooter who was on the FBI's radar killed 2 students at a New Mexico high school just 2 months ago. Although the killing doesn't meet the government's definition of a mass shooting, the shooter was known to the FBI. The agency investigated the shooter, 21-year-old William Atchison, in 2016 after he commented online about committing a mass shooting. Now, good as the Daily Caller is, they forgot to include a couple. Like this one. You remember the Draw Muhammad contest with Pamela Geller? Well, there was an FBI agent in that terrorist cell, supposed to be undercover, right? Well, he followed the 2 terrorists that actually attacked the event. He followed them in his car. And when they turned into the parking lot, ready to do their dastardly deeds, he drove away. He left those people to be murdered. Why? I don't know. I can't figure out why anybody does anything anymore. But I do know one thing. And as a matter of fact, it was mentioned in the chat room on YouTube here, just by my very first chatter by Sugar Bear. I'm going to show you what Sugar Bear was talking about right here. Hold on just 1 second. Let me pull this up. Had to do with a Q post right after the shooting. About come on. I just put it up there. Okay, yep, here we go. Facebook full screen. Let's pull it up. Yep. QAnons, I've been following these drops since day one, but this is the first time hearing of this from Behold a Pale Horse, the book from 1991 by Bill Cooper. It actually describes the clowns, that's the CIA, planning to use school shootings as a way to disarm the citizenry. And let's go right over to the Q posts and look at the post in question. We'll go over the latest post in just a second, but this one I want to read this passage out of Bill Cooper's book to you. It's frightening. He wrote this book in 1991, and here it is coming true right in front of us. Okay, here we go. The government encouraged the manufacture and importation of military firearms for the criminals to use. This is intended to foster a feeling of insecurity which would lead the American people to voluntarily disarm themselves by passing laws against firearms. Using drugs and hypnosis on mental patients in a process called Orion, the CIA inculcated the desire in these people to open fire on schoolyards and thus inflame the anti-gun lobby. This plan is well underway, and so far, it's working perfectly. The middle class is begging the government to do away with the Second Amendment. And it is. The bodies weren't even dead. Or, I mean, their bodies weren't even cold before, again, the left started calling for, excuse me, it's been a long day, and I should probably drink some water. Yeah, that's what I should do. Yeah, their bodies weren't even cold before the left started demanding that the Second Amendment be done away with. It said we don't need guns. People, left-wingers that did own guns, they're taking them to police stations and turning them in. I suppose that's their right. I think they're kind of stupid. I'll never turn in my guns, and neither will anybody that I know. There's no way that you can take 300 million guns away from 100 million gun owners. There aren't enough stormtroopers in the United States to get that done. They will run out of FBI agents and Homeland Security agents long before they've even made a dent. If they think that they're going to go house to house confiscating firearms, they've got another thing coming. And it's not a threat. The last thing I would ever want to do is harm anybody. Even somebody that was trying to harm me or my family. I don't want to do it. Because taking a human life, even in self-defense, is probably one of the most tragic things a person can experience. Why do you think that 22 of our brave soldiers are killing themselves every single day? Because taking a life and seeing lives taken, seeing your friends and your family die, that's not an event that mentally healthy people can process very easily. And the president was right when he talked about what we need to do after the shooting in Florida the other day. He said we need to look at mental health. And that's exactly what we need to do. You know that all of the mass shooters, all the school shooters and the guys that, the John Muhammad, who the DC sniper, all these guys, Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold in Colorado, just all of them. James Harris in Denver at the movie theater. They were all on antidepressants. Every single one of them. Mostly SSRIs, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. We live in a society where in the music that these kids listen to, they call women bitches and hoes, right? People are greedy, and they're selfish, they're self-centered. They watch Hollywood movies. And these Hollywood movies glorify violence. And it's funny, not funny, but funny, ironic that these Hollywood stars and producers will say, well, people don't need guns to protect themselves. Meanwhile, they're making millions of dollars shooting guns on screen. And meanwhile, they sit behind their gated communities and They've got armed guards. So they don't have to worry about it. But what about people, ordinary Americans, people like me? I can't carry a cop on my back 24/7. I get death threats every day. I just not talking about that guy I showed you earlier, but I got one yesterday. Said I'm going to be murdered. So I carry a gun all the time. I have to. The FBI has proven that they don't give a damn about my life, the lives of my family, my children, my grandchildren. They couldn't care less. They never went out to even interview that guy that said that he was going to murder federal agents. So what do? You've got to assume responsibility yourself for your safety. And I'm looking for a video here that I'm going to include in a future program. And it shows about video games. Like, particularly Grand Theft Auto 5. Doggone it. I just need to find the video and just tell you what it is. Okay, here we are. Okay, I found it. Yeah. Okay, there's this guy named Sly Shooter that's literally got millions of views on YouTube. Millions. And kids are watching his videos. Kids are playing the games. And the object of Call of Duty or Grand Theft Auto 5 is to run around and assault people, steal cars, rob businesses, commit random mass murders, kill police officers.
Don't walk into me, asshole.
Yeah, just walk up to random people, smack them in the face. Yeah, shoot the cops. This is what we're dealing with. This is what our kids see every day. This is what our kids play every day. These video games and movies glorify violence. They glorify the murders of innocent people, including police officers. And they call people like us a threat. Because we simply want to protect our families. You know, that's a God-given right. That's why the Second Amendment exists. To allow us to protect ourselves. You know, it's not even about hunting. Or it's not even about personal protection, really. Judge Napolitano said 100 times on Fox that the reason that the Second Amendment was included in the Constitution was to allow we, the people, the ability to overthrow a tyrannical government should that dark day ever come. And I'm not saying that our government's tyrannical. I'm not saying that anybody ought to take a gun and go out and seek justice for themselves. That's why we've got Article 3 courts. But we need to staff those courts with honorable judges And the people that bring the suspects to the courts need to be honorable. Okay, they can't be out there trying to enrich themselves or commit crimes. Like I said, most cops are good cops. Every one of them that I know is a good cop. When I first moved here to Alpena, the first thing that I learned about my local sheriff's department was that the commander of the hunt team, the Huron undercover narcotics team, was arrested by the sheriff because he had sexual relations with an informant. He was dirty. So I knew that I could trust my local sheriff. And I love that. I love that. And over the last, what is it? How long have I been here? 6 years. A couple of times they've really had my back. But like I said, I can't carry one on my back. They can't be here with me all the time. They deal with these death threats. They really can't do anything about it. Like I said, it's a federal offense to threaten somebody over the internet, so they just kick it on to the FBI. For a while, I had my own FBI agent. They were taking that was taking every threat that I had made against me and my family. But that FBI agent retired, and I haven't spoken with anybody since. I figure I'll just have to take care of it myself, and God, I hope that day never comes. I hope nobody ever gets the balls to come visit me and try to hurt me or one of my children, because I'm gonna send them a world of pain. Just because I don't like violence doesn't mean that I'm not good at it. The United States Marine Corps spent millions of dollars training me to be the most devastating weapons platform that the world has ever seen. But I've come to hate that. I don't want to use those skills. But I practice them all the time. Just about every weekend, I go out and train, usually with my kids, because I'm not going to be around for them either. So we practice various scenarios. It's not just target shooting. My kids know what to do and where to be and what force to bring to bear should we need to repel an attack on my home. And again, I'm not talking about cops, because I'm not worried about a SWAT team coming and knocking down my door, because I've got absolutely nothing that they could legitimately want. But it's these wackos like that Peter Fournier guy out in Oregon. He didn't like something I said on the internet, so he flew 3,500 miles so he could deliver me a poison pizza in person, just so he could see the look on my face. FBI hasn't done anything about that either. But should he ever return to the state of Michigan, he is a wanted man. He goes by the handle on Twitter, Goblin Seaman. Well, if he ever comes back to Michigan, he'll be Goblin Seaman in a Michigan prison, if he's lucky. If I don't have time to call the cops ahead of time, well, he won't be spending time anywhere. But why don't they address these threats when they've been given tons of evidence that these people are mentally ill? I mean, you've got to be mentally ill to take somebody's life, even if it's you're in a robbery. Okay, what kind of a person would shoot somebody over a drawer full of change? I remember when I was going to college in Detroit, the big thing was kids. And I'm talking about kids now. Like preteens and tweens, if that appellation would apply to inner city. Second. Yeah, reconnection successful. Okay, but yeah, when I was going to Detroit, or going to college in Detroit, the big thing there was these hoodies, coats with fur-lined hoods on them. Kids were shooting each other for them. Then the next year, I think it was Michael Jordan sneakers. They were killing each other over sneakers. And I blame their parents, or lack of parents, actually. You know, studies show that people that grow up in an intact household make more money, they're happier, and they go to prison a lot less than those that are brought up in a single-parent home. And it doesn't matter whether they're black or white. Although, if a black child is lucky enough to survive the womb, because over 50% of black pregnancies are terminated on an abortionist table. Over 50%, that's a genocide, folks. But if they're lucky enough to survive the womb, they have a 70% chance of being born into a single-parent home. And they're not going to have any money. Because even if mom works and isn't on welfare, well, mom's working 2 jobs just to survive. So she's not home. And, you know, white families, they get divorced too. Dad's off with his second wife. Mom's struggling to make ends meet. And Junior's down in the basement playing Grand Theft Auto, killing cops and raping hookers and robbing liquor stores. And just like that idiot that I showed you earlier that said that he wanted to take a knife and watch me die, watch the light fade from my eyes, they think they're playing a video game. They think that video games are real life, and I tell this kid, dude, in real life you don't respawn. Kids today, they're detached from reality because they're not brought up by loving parents, and this is it's all been planned by the powers that be, whatever you want to call them. And they started by taking God out of the schools. You know, we didn't have any of these problems when I was growing up. I remember when I was just a little boy, going into the hardware store in Spencer, Indiana, and they were selling dynamite over the counter. There wasn't a big problem with bombings. Not a problem at all. It's not a, whether it's a bomb or dynamite or a gun, it doesn't make any difference. They're tools. Okay, the farmers use the dynamite to remove stumps and whatnot, but you know, it's just a tool. It's the hard hearts of these kids that are to blame. And there's got to be something that we can do about that. One thing we can't do is blame the tool. I mean, if you take a hammer and you knock in a nail and you hit your thumb with the Hammer, do you blame the hammer or the nail? No. Well, sometimes you do, but you really can't when you think about it. Yeah, I've hit my hammer. I've hit my thumb with a hammer before. Oh, well, we just won't go there. I try not to cuss when I don't have to. But liberals all over the country have raised this battle cry, right? Republicans in the NRA have blood on their hands. Yeah, and they start this before the bodies of those 17 babies were even cold. And I have to disagree. I think that the blood is on the hands of the radical leftist teachers who've been teaching these students to think of every conservative as a Nazi that must be killed. And we saw that when I showed you the comments earlier. The blood's on the hands of liberal Hollywood, which cries for gun control at the drop of a hat on one hand, and then make movies that glorify violence on the other, and on the hands of the anarcho-communist terrorist groups like Antifa, who take kids into the streets to cause mayhem and punch Nazis because it's a really cool thing to do. The blood's on the hands of the absent parents who let the internet and television raise their children, medicating them with potent psychotropic drugs instead of spending time with them, raising them and teaching them about, well, how about values? About what it means to be a good person. And that's just secularly. How about teaching them about God? No real Christian I know wants to kill somebody because that's one of the big 10 sins, guys. Thou shalt not murder. There's a reason. It's one of the big 10. And the blood is on the hands of Big Pharma, too. It encourages doctors to prescribe these drugs to children that don't need them. You know, Ritalin, which they prescribe for ADHD, is basically methamphetamines, which real Nazis gave to the troops to allow them to commit atrocities and not be racked with guilt. Like I said earlier, every school shooter, every period, single period, one period, had one thing in common. They were all on antidepressant medication, usually an SSRI. Yeah, guns are not the enemy. They're simply tools. The enemy is the so-called resistance and the progressive ideals that are turning our children into killers. So what are we going to do about that? Well, I'd like to hear what you've got to say. I want you to call 218-548-7742 and enter the code 2018, and I will take your calls. And while we're waiting for that, I'm going to go through these comments here on YouTube, see what they got to say. Ooh, I've been playing with this new template. Hey, Sign Bum. Been playing with this new template. It allows me to put your comments right up there on the screen. Let's check them out, shall we? Dum 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 dum. Yeah, Sugar Bear. We're talking about that Behold a Pale Horse with Bill Cooper on page 225. I've never actually read that book, I'm ashamed to say, so I'm going to have to become familiar with it. Uh-oh. It's not centered. Well, let's fix that real quick. Boop. 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 Okay, now it's centered. Now, pretty much. Got a little bit more here to go. Okay. See, this is why I need a switcher operator and graphics designer to help me, folks. I'm doing the jobs of 4 people at one time, basically a one-legged man in an ass-kicking contest around here. No Tears in Heaven says the New World Order is coming to fruition, but our redemption is drawing near. Jesus, help us to be strong. Amen. Folks, Jesus Christ can help you no matter what your situation is. I want you to take my word on that. And in the last 3 years, I've had to deal with the death of my 24-year-old daughter, my mother, and my wife. And had I not had Jesus Christ to rest on and to carry my burdens when I physically couldn't anymore, I'm afraid to think of what I might have done. But I know one thing. I didn't take any antidepressants. That's probably a good thing, huh? Didn't need them. Antidepressants. Let me tell you what little I know about antidepressants, okay? Antidepressants are for what they call what is it? Well, it's an imbalance of the neurotransmitters in your brain. And it's like a permanent imbalance. Okay, so when they give you these neurotransmitters, they're supposed to bring those levels back in, or when they give you the antidepressants, they're supposed to bring those levels back into sync. But if you are not clinically depressed, if you don't need to have your neurotransmitter levels rebalanced, then it throws them out of whack the other way. Okay, do you understand what I mean? If you really do need an antidepressant, if your neurotransmitters are out of whack, it can be a good thing. But if you don't need it, if you're not clinically depressed, if you're just going through a sad time in your life, start taking antidepressants, it just throws everything out the window. Your levels get all messed up, and you really are crazy. They really do make you crazy. Being sad is not the same as being depressed. Going through grief is not the same as being depressed. Every person that has ever lived has had somebody in their family die. Well, I guess every person that's ever lived has had everybody in their family die at one point. It's something that you have to just get over. I mean, well, you don't get over it. You learn to accept it and incorporate it into yourself, like and make things better. Like, for example, when my daughter died, when she died, I had not yet told her about the salvation that's offered by Christ. I tried a couple of times. She had lived with her mother. Her mother and I had never been married. But she lived with her mother her whole life. And when she turned 18, she came to live with me. I was the happiest dad in the world. That's where she needed to be. I was just happy. And I tried to tell her about Christ a couple of times, but she'd look at me with those big, beautiful eyes and she'd say, "Daddy, you know I don't believe in that." Well, having just gotten her into my life, I didn't want to push her away. And I figured I'd have plenty of time to introduce her slowly to the faith that her mother had neglected to tell her about. But then she died. And I still to this day don't know how. The autopsy said it was a heart attack. But it was right after I had revealed that the CIA had overthrown Muammar Gaddafi. And that it was all based on a lie, the Libyan revolution. I talked to a NATO spokesman, an official NATO spokesman. I got him on the record saying that Gaddafi had no chemical weapons, which was the raison d'être for Obama's intervention in Libya in the first place. Shortly thereafter, my daughter died of a heart attack. And at first, I didn't think anything of it. But, you know, I've been a journalist for a long time. I graduated from journalism school in 1985. So I've been around. I covered the Gulf War out in Colorado Springs. My beat was NORAD in Fort Carson, Peterson Air Force Base. So I met a lot of spooks. I've known these guys for a long time. And I was told by an intelligence agent from a friendly but foreign nation that because of what I'd reported about Libya, my daughter might have been murdered. So let's go back to these comments for a second. Let's change the track here a little bit. Snake Jones says, can't arrest your patsy before the crime. Now can you? No, I guess you can't, Snake. He's talking about the FBI agents that didn't arrest Nicholas Cruz. And there's other times, you know, Richard Reed, the underwear bomber, and various other bombers, the Times Square guy that put a vehicle-borne improvised explosive device in Times Square. You know, the FBI finds these weak-minded wannabe terrorists, okay? They could never, in a million years, pull off a terrorist attack by themselves. But they find these weak-minded and many times retarded. And I'm not saying that to be me. I'm just saying it to be truthful. Mentally deficient, developmentally disabled Muslims or others. they set up a group of Ohio crackheads, meth heads, white ones, not too long ago, the same way. But they get these people of diminished capacity, and they lead them into to committing these acts. Okay, they could never do anything like this on their own. The FBI supplies them with fake bombs and encourages them and walks them through the process, and yeah, we'll really strike a blow for Allah. And these people don't know what they're doing. They're stupid. I'm not talking about the FBI agents. I'm talking about their patsies. They're stupid. Developmentally disabled, retarded, whatever words you want to call it, whatever phrase, doesn't make any difference. They don't have the mental capacity to pull these operations off. The FBI has to help them along, and then right at the last minute, they arrest them and save everybody, right? Bullshit. There was never any danger to begin with, and the FBI cooked up the plot by themselves. They just needed somebody, a patsy, to pin it on so that they could, you know, go to Congress and ask for more funding. Maybe if they spent a little bit more time going after the real threats instead of cooking up these false flag attacks of their own, they'd be a little bit more successful in actually saving innocent human lives. Anonymous says, honestly, everyone already knows that mass shootings never happen unless in a war. I'm not sure about that. They would have to have an incentive to shoot randomly at people. Even in terrorist countries, it doesn't happen that much, only in war when they are trying to take territory. Now, I'm not sure about that at all, Mr. Anonymous. Because let's take a look. Excuse me. Let's take a look at Islamic terrorism, for example. Do you know that so many Muslims have died at the hands of other Muslims that it makes the numbers of Christians and Jews who've been killed by Islamic terrorists statistically insignificant by comparison? The Shia and the Sunni Muslim sects have been at war for 800 years since the death of Muhammad. And since the invention of dynamite, especially here in the last 100 years or so. Their favorite venue for an attack is each other's mosques. They go there and kill their fellow Muslims while they are kneeling in prayer. So, yeah. I'm not sure I buy that, Mr. Anonymous, because I've seen it happen. Mass killings don't just happen anymore. But he does note that J. Edgar Hoover was not a dirty cop. He was a hero of the FBI. Time Traveler says, hi, Bobby. Did you hear about the Secret Service personnel at the school several weeks before the shooting to change security protocols? And yes, Time Traveler, I did. I read about that just a couple of hours ago, and we'll talk about that on a future show. And we'll look at that. Politically Incorrect wants me to read the indictments. I'm sorry, but I don't have enough time to do that tonight. Anonymous says, when I see a meth addict, all I want to do is run away from them as fast and as far as I humanly can take my legs. They destroy everything that they touch. And he's right about that. Methamphetamine is probably the worst drug that's ever been cooked up. And, you know, they say to be a successful writer, which is basically what I am. I'm a writer with technology. I would be so much more comfortable with a pen and a piece of paper. But to be a successful writer, you got to write about what you know. So I'm going to tell you about what I know about methamphetamines right now. My nephew, Randy, or Rodney, two brothers. My nephew, Rodney, was a successful country and western musician. He had just signed his first record contract. He had a beautiful wife, 2 beautiful children, and he was really a rising star in country music. He started smoking meth. Well, he started missing play dates, started losing jobs. His addiction got expensive, so he had to sell his equipment. You know, a speaker here, a guitar there, lights. It all went in his pipe. And his wife got hooked on it too. And a beautiful woman, within a year, looked like a meth addict. And he was eventually arrested and lost everything. All of it. He lost his career, he lost his marriage, and he lost his children. Took my nephew 10 years to get off that garbage. And I'm proud to say that he has finally overcome it. He's still divorced. Never did get back with his wife, but he's managed to rekindle his relationships with his children. And they've managed to salvage something out of that whole nightmare. So yes, folks, when it comes to drugs, especially like meth, run as fast as you can. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Or do not pay $200 for that pipe full of death. Because it'll kill you. The Santilli Broadcasting Network, my brother from another mother, Peter T. Santilli. I love you, brother, and yes, I am having too much fun. Too much fun. I'm really enjoying this. This is what I've always wanted to do. Just share information. I've been a news hound ever since I was a little boy. Matter of fact, my mom recognized this, and For my 14th birthday, she got me one of the best presents that I ever had, which was a lifetime subscription to U.S. News and World Report. How many 14-year-olds do you know that get a subscription? Ask for a subscription to U.S. News and World Report. Well, that'd be me. Bizarro World caught me live, and he's with me. Oh, I'm so glad to see you guys. I really am. Side Mom says, where have I been? There we are. Where have I been for so long? Well, I guess you missed the memo. Yeah, I'm not saying that to be mean or anything like that, but you know, my wife died. You know, she had cancer. And she died a couple of months after my mom, who also had cancer. Same kind of cancer. And it was a blow. She died in August 2015, and I didn't get out of bed until Thanksgiving. The week after she died, I went down to Pete Santilli's house down in Ohio. I took my youngest son Adam there. And Pete and Deb took us in. And took care of us. I had no idea what I was going to do. I was searching for something. And I reached out to Pete and Deb. I reached out to Pete and Deb, and they were there for me. Can you hold on for just 1 second, caller, please? I've got you.
Sure.
I got you. Just hold on for 1 second, and I will bring you on. I just want to finish this story about Pete and Deb. But yeah, the thing that I was looking for, which was basically my wife, wasn't at Pete's house. And as gracious as they were, you know, there's not a whole lot that they could do. So my son and I packed up and went back here to Alpena. And as I was walking up the driveway, I think that's when it really hit me. That I would never see her again. We had been together for 28 years. 25 of them as husband and wife. She died 3 days after our 25th wedding anniversary. I can count on one hand the number of times that we were apart for more than 12 hours over 28 years. So yeah, it was a blow, and I spent the next couple of months in bed. Till Thanksgiving came around, and our daughter Chrissy came to celebrate Thanksgiving with us to make the dinner that her mom usually made. And she saw her mom's urn in my bedroom, right next to the TV with a candle in front of it. And she said, "This is not going to do." So she took Delanne into the living room and put her in the hutch. And that kind of snapped me out of it a little bit. We had as good a Thanksgiving as we could. And then Christmas. And then Father's Day. Valentine's Day. Back around to her birthday. Our wedding anniversary. and the anniversary of her death, right? So it took time. Ms. Steinbaum, it took time, and that's where I've been. Been licking my wounds, getting ready to get back into battle. Because make no mistake about it, folks, we are in a battle. We are in a war. We're fighting the devil himself. And you can see it in the actions of these kids that kill other kids. It's demonic. If you don't have God in your life, that every human being is a three-part being. Okay, you got your mind, body, and spirit. And if you don't have God filling your spiritual life, the devil's going to come in and he's going to fill that vacuum. Do you understand what I'm saying? So you've got to keep your focus on God. And he will never let you down. I promise you. Kept me alive. By miracles at times. Nothing lately, but when I was a teenager, I experienced a real miracle. I'll tell you about that some other time. But, let's see what else we got here. Bizarro World says he missed me. So glad to hear me again. Thank you, brother. Thank you.
You got a caller.
Pete says, on a subconscious level, video games and movies are creating sociopaths. He's talking to Steinbaum. Why are you seriously so disassociated? It's so programmed. You think that 17 lives lost are no huge deal? Well, we'll let them talk that out in the comments, and I'm going to take this first call that we've got. Let's see, from the 417 area code. Who we got?
Hey, what's going on, Bobby? It's been a long time, man.
Who is this?
My name's Brad.
Okay. How long have you been watching?
I've been watching you for years, I guess. I was subscribed to you a long time ago, then you quit posting, I guess, over your personal experiences.
Okay, so, yeah, you know. So, what do you want to talk about tonight, Brad? The subject is the FBI and how they're not doing their jobs.
Well, we can talk about the school shooting for a moment. I mean, I don't want to spend a lot of time on that, but I think that's just hyped a lot. I mean, sure, it's bad, right? But, there's a lot more things going on, and there's a lot, I mean, they don't hype the Chicago killings like they do school killings. That to me, from the press perspective, is just more of a anti-gun thing.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So they just hype that up. I mean, you could go to Chicago, especially during the summer, and I mean, there's 17 shootings a night. And you don't hear about that on the news.
No, not at all, because it doesn't fit their narrative. Do you know that more people have died since 2001, since the war in Iraq started? More people have died in Chicago than have died in the Iraq war and Afghanistan combined.
Oh, sure. But you're right, it doesn't fit their narrative. It's an anti-gun narrative, and children, when you have children being killed by other children, it pulls on the heartstrings more and gets people more emotionally involved than it does gang killings. Well, even though those are children as well, for the most part.
I was going to say that exact same thing, because most of those gang killings are children. They're children killing children, and a lot of the times the dead aren't even in a gang. Like there's 10-year-old girls laying in bed or doing their homework or walking down the street. They get hit by a stray bullet. Okay, but no, you don't see Al Sharpton. Yeah, you don't see Al Sharpton or Jesse Jackson leading marches for them. Why not?
And it also falls into racist component as well. You know, that it's 99% black, so you don't want to talk about that because it would be like a racist thing. It's only blacks killing blacks, and that's
well, the victims are black. Why can't we talk about the black victims without being racist?
Well, because that doesn't fit the narrative. You see, the mainstream media is all about programming. It's got nothing to do with reality.
Well, that's true. But, if anybody ever accuses you of being racist because you want to talk about the gun problems that are in Chicago or Philadelphia or any of these other urban centers where gangs are just totally off the hook and murders are at a record rate, well, just remind that person, I'm not racist. I'm standing up for black lives because those innocent black lives, that 12-year-old black child that died mattered to me. They matter to us. They are our children. Oh, like Whitney Houston says, children are our future. And
well, that's true.
And it doesn't make any difference what color they are. You know, you see these black power, right? Or Viva la Raza, or whatever. And white power. Well, you're a racist. Okay, everything's okay but white power. Well, I think all that's ridiculous. Okay, if you want to be proud of something, don't be proud of the color of your skin. My God, you were born with that. Be proud of, well, what have I got to be proud of? When I graduated boot camp and accepted the Eagle Globe and Anchor, made me a United States Marine, I was proud of that.
Personal achievement is what you
exactly. Personal achievement, not something that you were born with, not something that was given to you, something that you earned. That you can be proud of. When I fell off my roof and broke my back in 1994, it took me 15 years to get back to walking without a cane. In 2012, I finally threw away my cane after 8 surgeries and hundreds of hours of physical therapy. I could walk again. And I'll tell you what, I'm proud of that. Because it took effort.
The mainstream narrative on television that they feed everyone is a cumulative achievement. They've tried to take the individualism out of America.
Mm-hmm.
See, and that's the first step towards socialism.
Yeah.
And so, America used to be based on, you can watch old movies and old newsreels and things like that, and it was all about personal achievement. Now it's the I'm trying to find the verbiage for it, but like the collective achievement, for lack of a better phrase. It's not about individualism anymore. It's about what group are you a part of.
Yeah. And they call that identity politics. And it doesn't work. And it doesn't work because, like last year, the big thing was pussy hats, right? The Women's March, the big thing was pussy hats. Well, this year, when they did the Women's March, you couldn't have a pussy hat. Because, no, not all women are pink. Well, that's not true. There's a saying that we had in the Marine Corps, this is all pink inside. But I'm sorry if that was a little bit crude, but it's true. Once you take off that outer skin, the outer pigment layer that contains the melanin that gives us our skin color, we're all the same inside. If there were 2 dead bodies laying on a autopsy table, and one of them was black and one of them was white, and they had both been skinned, you wouldn't be able to tell one from the other unless you were a trained forensic anthropologist.
I've experienced that myself personally. I grew up in Little Rock, Arkansas, which has a lot of blacks, and of course I'm white. And when you take a group of, I'll start with white first, you take a group of whites and you got one black guy there, he kind of feels like an outsider and acts different. You take a white guy and put him with a group of black guys, they act different around him. You know what I mean? So it's human nature is what it is. It's not that people are bad or anything like that. It's a natural thing.
Mm-hmm.
and people want to deny that and call it racism or whatever. It's a group mentality, and it's hard to explain really, but it's people are good as individuals, but when they group up, that's when they get bad. I mean, that's when you form armies, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. But but groups of people can also get together to do good, like the Cajun Navy. Okay,
they can, but they got to be led
after the recent hurricane. Like the Cajun Navy after the recent hurricane, they didn't care, who they were saving.
I'll give you a personal experience. I live right outside of Branson, Missouri, right? And up here it's mostly white.
Okay, you live in Branson, Missouri, where it's mostly white, and?
Yeah, right, I was hesitating. I got my earphones on, and there's a slight delay on your program, so I took it out. That way we can speak normally. So my father died, and he had a place down in Mission, Texas, which is right dead on the border of Mexico, right on the river. The river, Mexico is 100 yards away. So I always had an opinion on illegal immigrants that, that needs to be stopped, and I was, pretty negative towards them.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm down there, since I inherited this place, I go down there and spend the winter last winter. And it's like the biggest drug trafficking and human trafficking area there is. Right? And I'm right there. And I mean, they're coming over. I'm fishing off the fishing dock, and they're dropping them off on the dock on a jet ski while I'm fishing. And, and I see women with carrying their babies and things like that. And, it changes your perspective. You see them more as desperate people than you do as enemies. So what I found from that is, and again, I'm 52 years old, so I've got a different perspective than a lot of people. But, perspective is everything. When you're there seeing it for yourself, you see desperate people trying to improve their lives. Now, when you're up here in Branson, you see people taking your jobs. So it's all in perspective. And I just feel like, to tell you the truth, that changed my perspective on a lot of things in life. Because
you do that as you get older. Have you noticed that? When you get older and you get more experience in things, you tend to change your perspective. And
and you got to experience it first, though. Someone can't give you perspective.
True.
You can't see that on television.
You're right. You're absolutely correct. It's something that you've got to experience. And that's why I'm glad that I've experienced a lot of things in my life, because here at 54 years old, I like to think that I'm a fairly well-rounded individual. I can do all kinds of things. I can fish, I can hunt, I can write poetry. If I were to describe myself, I would be a warrior poet. Although I have actually never been in combat, I won't claim that honor. But the Marine Corps changed me. It took me from being a nerd. I was the nerd in high school, right? Everybody came to me to help them do with their homework and whatnot. And the Marine Corps kind of changed that. They didn't change my brain. They couldn't do that, but they did instill me with values like loyalty, discipline, and honor. Which is, I think what people
aware of, you could do more than you may have thought you could do too.
Oh, definitely.
I feel like
definitely. When Staff Sergeant Willie is barking up your ass saying, "Powell, move it up that hill," you know that you can do things that you never thought possible. Because Staff Sergeant Willie, I'll tell you, he was something else. Brad, it was nice talking to you, but I've got only just a few minutes left, and there's a couple of things I wanted to talk about before I go. So I've got your number in my system now, and please call back next time. We're going to start doing Truth is Viral every night at 11 o'clock, Monday through Friday. And I'll tell you why. Because we're entering into a partnership with the G1 NBC network. And the way G1 NBC does things is instead of like taking a 2-hour show, you know, like I normally do, or those that have watched my show for the last 8 years, no, I take one subject, I get an expert on that subject, and I usually make a 1 to 2 hour show out of it. Well, the way GNBC works is that they do a lot more local news. So I will be doing a lot more news that is Michigan specific, although I will be choosing stories that also have national ramifications. So it'll be interesting to everybody. And
well, you got to do what you know, and from your area. And I encourage you. Listen, I'll call in again, and I'll be watching your show. But if you can, go down to if you want to get away from the cold sometime, I encourage you to go down to McAllen Mission area. You can live down there cheap and have a good time. Let me tell you.
Well, I appreciate.
Listen, I'll call in again.
I appreciate that, but all of my family is here now. I can't uproot everybody because they've all got their. I mean, the kids are all out of the house now. They've got their husbands and wives and children, my grandchildren, and everybody's here. My entire family, except for extended family that I haven't heard from for years and don't particularly care about because they're just not nice people. So I've cut them out. Cut them out of my life. Well, thank you for calling in, Brett. I do appreciate it. You have a good night, and God bless you, brother.
All right, you too, man.
Okay, bye. Okay, so yeah, I want to remind everybody that if you donate into my PayPal account tonight, the link is in the video description below. All of the proceeds are going to be going to the law enforcement torch run. Because we're going to have the polar plunge tomorrow. It's something I've been doing for the last 3 years. And what I do is I get dressed up. I usually get dressed up as a superhero. And I do what a lot of people have asked me to do over the years, and that is jump in the lake.
I'm going to take everybody in with me today. Hey, girl.
Bobby. Bobby Powell as Batman. He's going to videotape it as he goes in, I guess.
Now listen to my dedication here, guys.
Underwater camera. Here we go.
For Pete the Bundys and Lavoy Finicum.
For Pete the Bundys and Lavoy Finicum. That's right. I'll tell you, it is cold. It's very cold. You want to know what was really funny about that last year? Not a Batman costume. I didn't realize it at the time. It's a Batgirl costume. It was so funny when I found out about that. I almost lost it. But yeah, anything that you donate to The Truth is Viral tonight, or as a result of this program, will go to the law enforcement torch run, and that benefits Special Olympics here in Michigan. And I think that's a really worthwhile cause. And I want to end out the show tonight with a little segment. It's about 15 minutes long, so don't go anywhere yet. It's a great little segment. It has to do with the gun control debate that this massacre has started once again. And even though I made this after the Folsom nightclub massacre, folks, the truths that are in the last 15 minutes of this show are immutable. They matter no matter what event you're talking about. So I'll be back on the other side of this. So enjoy this and gain this knowledge and share it with your friends. I'll at the end of this show, I'll put up a title card, and you can click that link and go to just this one video and share it. Welcome back to The Truth is Viral. My name is Bob Powell, and this is a short first in the series I'm going to call Common Sense. After the ISIS-inspired Islamic terrorist attack on the Pulse nightclub in Orlando, which maimed 53 people and snuffed out the lives of 49 others, the topic of gun control is once again front and center on the American stage. What's different this time is that some conservative pundits and legislators are joining with the anti-gun left to call for restrictions on firearms, and they are doing so from a position of ignorance. Fox News anchor Gretchen Carlson took to the air to ask the question, should assault weapons be banned? Let's see what she's got to say.
Every time we have a mass shooting, we talk about guns, right? Yes, the Orlando massacre was terror. But there's no doubt that Omar Mateen was able to kill so many people because he was firing an AR-15.
Well, first off, Ms. Carlson, the weapon used by the Islamic terrorist in Orlando was not an AR-15. This is the weapon used by the assailant. It's called a Sig Sauer MCX carbine. It's a modular, multi-caliber weapon system that can be customized to fire a variety of different caliber rounds, including 5.56 NATO, 300 BLK, and 7.62 by 3.9. The only thing that weapon has in common with the AR-15, other than the fact that it is black, is that it accepts standard magazines, which are common to scores of different firearms. I'd like to point out that the gun control legislation currently before Congress specifically exempts this weapon, a Mini 14 named after my late wife Delynn, from further restrictions. Yet it would ban the sale of weapons such as this AR-15, named in honor of my late daughter Ashley. Both of these beautiful ladies are lightweight, gas-operated, magazine-fed, air-cooled semi-automatic rifles. Both weapons fire .223 caliber and 5.56 NATO rounds at a muzzle velocity of 3,200 feet per second. Both weapons have an effective range of just over 500 yards. Both weapons are semi-automatic, and that means that they are not machine guns, as the liar Dirty Harry Reid proclaimed on the floor of the Senate. A machine gun will continue firing with one press of the trigger until the shooter lifts that finger from the trigger. But both of these weapons send only one round downrange with each pull of the trigger. Fully automatic firearms are already banned for civilian use by the National Firearms Act of 1934, the Gun Control Act of 1968, and the Firearm Ownership Protection Act of 1986. Fully automatic firearms are for military and police use almost exclusively. You cannot buy them at Walmart. By every scientific and practical measure, these weapons are identical in function. The only differences are cosmetic. And anyone who says any different is either ignorant of the subject matter, a left-wing gun grabber, or a special kind of stupid. The Mini 14 weighs in at 6 pounds 6 ounces without ammunition. The AR-15, 1 pound 1 ounce less. That's because instead of the wooden stock on the Mini 14, the AR uses a composite plastic barrel guard that allows for the easy installation of accessories. Let's take a look at some of those accessories, shall we? This flashlight does not make the weapon any deadlier, but it did come in handy as I left the woods each night last hunting season. This laser sight does not make the weapon any deadlier, just more accurate. The telescoping stock does not make the weapon any deadlier, just easier to customize to the length of the shooter's arm. The pistol grip does not make the weapon any deadlier, just easier to control. The flash suppressor does not make the weapon any deadlier, just more polite. Most importantly, the black color does not make this weapon any deadlier. And if anybody thinks that it does, then they just might be a racist. Or really, really dumb. Hashtag Black Guns Matter. So, back to Gretchen. An AR-15 was not used to murder all of those innocent people, but let's not allow that inconvenient fact to muddy the discussion. Please do continue.
He was firing an AR-15, a military-style assault weapon, a weapon easier to buy in the state of Florida than buying a handgun. Florida sets a 3-day waiting period for purchasing handguns, but the state mandates no waiting period for any gun that requires 2 hands to hold.
The reason that Florida has a 3-day waiting period for handguns is because handguns are used in a majority of firearm homicides. It's called a cooling off period, and it is designed to allow those who get so angry at another person that they think buying a gun and taking their life would be a good idea time to think about that decision. The reason that there is no waiting period to buy a rifle is that less than 1% of firearm homicides are committed with a rifle of any kind. The latest FBI statistics reveal that out of the 8,124 gun murders committed in 2014, only 248 were committed with rifles, and so-called assault rifles comprised only a subset of that number. In 2014, an American citizen was twice as likely to be beaten to death with an assailant's bare hands, and more than 5 times as likely to be stabbed to death than they were to be killed by an AR-15. In fact, if one were to discount gun homicides in the cities of Chicago, Detroit, New Orleans, Philadelphia, and Washington, D.C., where Democrats and drug gangs overwhelmingly use handguns to turn the streets of those cities into battlefields that are bloodier than any in Afghanistan, the United States would be the 4th safest country on the planet. So maybe if we really want to decrease gun violence, we should ban Democrats.
President Obama and gun control advocates have repeatedly called for reinstating the federal ban on semi-automatic assault weapons that expired in 2004. Congress has said no.
Congress said no because the assault weapons ban signed into law by Bill Clinton is widely recognized to have been an utter waste of time and energy, having negligible impact on real-life gun violence at all. Clinton even blamed passage of the ban on the subsequent trouncing received by Democrats in the polls. Republicans remember that. Just ask the New York Times how successful the Clinton assault weapons ban was at the time.
So what do you think? A recent Quinnipiac poll shows 58% of you support banning the sale of assault-style weapons. So here's my question today. Do we need AR-15s to hunt and kill deer? Do we need them to protect our families?
The answer to that question is yes. We do need the lightweight, accurate AR-15 to hunt deer and protect our families. But, as Judge Andrew Napolitano has stated many times on Fox, the Second Amendment is not about hunting, nor even personal protection. The Second Amendment was added to the Constitution to give we the people the ability to overthrow a tyrannical government should that dark day ever come. And to listen to the ACLU, that day has already come. You can click this link right here to hear ACLU attorney Nate Wessler call Barack Obama judge, jury, and executioner, a set of characteristics described by founding father James Madison as the very definition of tyranny in Federalist Paper number 43.
Yes, I'm in favor of people being able to carry. I think some of these mass shootings would have been less deadly if that were the case.
I'm so happy that you agree I have a natural right to life, Miss Carlson. You know, I was in a shopping center not too far from here the other day, and a little old lady come up behind me and tapped me on the shoulder, and she pointed to my weapon and she said, "That's cool. I wish more people would carry guns." No, ma'am, I said, it's not cool. But in today's world, it's absolutely necessary. And I'll tell you one other thing. You could not possibly be safer than you are right at this very moment. She liked that. So I will continue to carry my weapon every single day, 24/7, 365, in order to preserve my life and the lives of the innocents around me. I have to, because as a conservative Christian publisher, I get death threats all of the time, but the FBI won't do anything about it. Why? Probably because I'm a conservative Christian publisher. One man who offered a reward for my death and the deaths of my family members, in addition to explicitly threatening the lives of federal agents in a YouTube video, is still actively posting.
If it means I have to put a bullet in a government agent or two, so be it.
As far as I know, the FBI never even went out to see him, even though I, told them about him over almost 2 years ago now. So I assume responsibility for my safety and the safety of those people that I love, and anybody else that happens to be in the general vicinity.
But I'm also with the majority today, taking a stand. Can't we hold true the sanctity of the Second Amendment while still having common sense? And that brings us to our question of the day. Should Congress reinstate the assault weapons ban? I know a lot of you aren't agree with me today. That's fine. That's what makes America great. Look, you don't. 89% of you say no. 11% say yes. Tweet me at Gretchen Carlson. Use the hashtag #TheRealStory. This is why we are America.
Ms. Carlson, before the Pulse nightclub massacre, the highest mass shooting body count was racked up by the Virginia Tech shooter who killed 32 and injured 17 with 2 handguns, a Glock 19 and a Walther P22, both popular and easily available weapons. Timothy McVeigh snuffed out the lives of 168 people at Oklahoma City's Alfred P. Murrah building, including 19 babies, and maimed another 680 with a truck full of fertilizer and racing fuel. Julio Gonzalez killed 87 people when he used a few gallons of gas and a book of matches to torch New York City's Happy Land Social Club in 1990. Terrorists armed with knives killed 29 and wounded 130 people at a Chinese train station in 2014, and the Palestinian knife intifada continues to this day. On 9/11/2001, the worst terrorist attack the U.S. has ever experienced, which took the lives of more than 3,000 innocent people, was carried out by Muslims, armed with nothing more than box cutters and pepper spray. A gun is just a tool, folks. It's a hard heart that kills, and a sick one that murders innocents at school, at work, or at play. Until somebody comes up with a test to determine the content of a person's heart, there will always be evil people in the world who will use any available method to advance whatever devilish agenda has infected their twisted minds. Further restricting guns is not the answer, especially not now when we are at war with radical Islam. When any trip to our children's schools, a mall, restaurant, movie theater, or dance club could turn into a life or death situation. I fear that soft targets such as these will be targeted by ISIS terrorists more and more, and in the 9 minutes minimum that it takes police to respond to a call for help, hundreds could die. Every American citizen is a member of the militia referred to by the Second Amendment, and they should have weaponry that at least gives them a fighting chance against the modern weapons certain to be wielded by tyrants or terrorists. Now is the time for that American militia to train to repel attacks on this great nation by the bloodthirsty followers of a bloodthirsty religion and a bloodthirsty God. Even Greg Gutfeld says so. And who am I to argue with Greg? He's like Mighty Mouse. And that's my take.
Yeah, that was my take. Folks, I want to remind everybody that any donation that I receive tonight is going to go directly to the law enforcement torch run at the Polar Plunge tomorrow. I'm going to jump in the lake, as a lot of my viewers have suggested. And we're going to raise some money for those guys, because I'm telling you, it's really a worthwhile cause to oh, doggone it, I lost it. I lost it. Here, where is it? Come back. Come back to me. I had it here just a second ago. Come on. Oh, there it comes. Okay, it's coming. It's really slow because I'm running so many things on this one computer all at once. And yeah, one of these days I'm going to have a fundraiser so that I can, afford to buy new equipment. Maybe hire somebody to help me run the board, so to speak. I need somebody to be my switcher operator, and I need some help in production, pre-production, post-production, the whole 9 yards. I can't do it all myself. When I'm doing this right now, I'm literally doing the jobs of 4 people at the same time. I know I've said it before, but I feel like a one-legged man in a ass-kicking contest. So, yes, I would like you to go to bobpowell.blogspot.com or my PayPal me and donate to my Polar Plunge tomorrow. It's going to benefit Special Olympics in Michigan, part of the Michigan Law Enforcement Torch Run. I'd like to thank everybody for watching The Truth is Viral tonight. You guys are awesome. I really don't know what I'd do without you. You're something else. Make sure that you subscribe to us on all our platforms, on Gab AI, at TTiV. They kicked me off Twitter because I called Kim Kardashian skank. Like and make sure you see first all of our posts from facebook.com/thetruithisviral. Subscribe to the blog at bobpowell.blogspot.com, and you will be the first person to get notifications for The Truth is Viral. My name is Bob Powell. Thank you for watching, and as always, God bless, Semper Fi, and hoorah. Have a great weekend.
Thank you for watching The Truth is Viral with your host, Bobby Powell. Make sure to follow The Apocalypse on Twitter at The Truth is Viral. Like The Truth is Viral on Facebook, and if you can, please remember to donate to the cause via PayPal at www.bobpowell.blogspot.com.